So AI is such an important aspect of the future of your business. When you're selling your company, um, we had an amazing conversation with Ken Winell, a co-founder of Nexus Digital Group, that we thought it was important to give you the most benefit from that conversation. So we broke this episode into two parts, and this is part two. And welcome back to the ins and outs of selling a business. Yeah, so I think there's some of the noise out there is like AI is going to solve your problems, but it's not going to solve your. It's like anything else. It's like if you brought in a big consulting firm to evaluate your business and what you're doing and strategy and whatnot. I mean, it's really a tool. So, but AI can't really look outside what it has, and what it has is your data or inputs or prompts you provided from the web, but also your internal data, right? So, and you've come out and you've been into cutting edge digital, for over 2 decades now. Let's talk about your data, right? Let's talk about, because a lot of our clients, let's say, have not upgraded older systems.
Sure.
Right. And
Legacy
system. Thank you. That's the right word. And that is just because they've worked, and we don't, we're happy with it. It's no big deal, but it's not good enough anymore, right? Legacy systems, the new buyer coming in is going to say, okay, that's going to cost me $500,000 to replace that. So that's going to affect the purchase price. But back to AI, that, the data, and let's just talk about, if you're like a manufacturing company or a service company, how do you bring the two together?
That's a great question. So there's actually an interesting chasm happening right now as the value of vibe coding, which are, it's AI tools that help you develop code, versus typical SaaS systems like software as a service. A couple of examples. Let's pick on CRM, customer relationship management. So the big behemoth out there, Salesforce, right? HubSpot's another one. There's a few others that are out there that are good. These are all tools that have been developed over years, and obviously pay for the number of licenses that you have. There's the annual expense and all that stuff, and it's hosted in a cloud. You have access to your data. You decide to leave, it's painful, because when you want to leave, how do I get all my data out of Salesforce, right? And so if you're a PE firm and you're coming in and looking at a company, and they say, what legacy systems do you have? If you have an on-premises customer relationship management system, they're going to look at you and say, okay, I understand you have to invest in that. But now the question in their mind is, do I go to a platform or do I build it myself? And if I build it myself, what's it going to cost? There's a dramatic decrease in cost if you do self-building now, and then you can host it in your own private cloud. You can put it on the public cloud. It doesn't matter, because all that information is self-contained. So it becomes a real challenge. And that's why you started to see the stock market reflect that, was that some of these companies that had very high PE ratios are now, starting to drop a little bit because they are a threat. We also see that every one of these major platforms out there has been barreling down the AI integration. Well, we have to integrate AI. Okay, now they all have AI. Like, Salesforce has Einstein, and HubSpot has Breeze, and you can name the different tools that they call. Everybody has a new name, right? So it's not just Amazon Alexa anymore, or Google Play, right? And so they're all in there saying, we can help you do this. That's to help use their system. Mm-hmm. It's not the bigger picture, which is what the OpenGPT, OpenAI, and Claude and Perplexity and those guys are all doing. Right. So there's a lot of differentiation starting to happen there. I think for data, the first thing to look at as a company is, understanding where it is the first thing. Then the staleness of your data is another question, right? Because, do you need 50 years of records, or do you only need the last 10 years, or do you only need a year, right? And those are questions that you should fundamentally ask, because that will affect it. Also, the freshness of that data and legacy. We're doing stuff now. This is a great story. We had a company where the average age of the employee was in the 50-year-old range, and they recognized they needed new blood to come in, and they really wanted to expand. But all these people who've been there for years, polished tradesmen, really know what they're doing, metal works and fabric works and all that. So we started filming them. And the analogy I'll give you is, for the Holocaust survivors, they had a thing Steven Spielberg started called the Shoah Foundation, where they interview people and they tell their stories. Right. We did that at a business level. Interesting. Right? Filming them. And that's great. And then we fed it into AI, right? Plus, we then attached to their individual email inboxes. And then we also targeted a search for all the documents that they produced. Then we asked the AI engine to build a course and curriculum, train the new person based on the voice, tone, and what the job was, right? And now we call it legacy.com. And legacy.com is really what we're doing is you come in and say, you know what, I'm starting a new draftsman, right? Which job has gone away, right? AI is now replaced with CAD, CAM software and all that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to an engineering firm, you could sit for 2 hours and have a full course with quizzes and tests to actually come up to speed of what somebody had spent 50 years doing.
It's interesting because it's a critical point, like question. We do a lot of manufacturing, and you walk around the factory floor, and hard to find a tool and die person anymore.
Oh yeah.
The machinists are 55, 60 years old. Now there is a younger generation that's into it. There's been a big dynamic shift back to
the trades are coming back.
The trades are coming back, which is fantastic. But there was a point, right? When I'm old enough to remember when United Technologies, Pratt and Whitney killed their internship program, apprentice programs, and everybody did. General Dynamics, they all did, right? Versus, so you have a gap, and a question that's always asked by a buyer is, what's the average age of your employees?
Exactly.
Because they're walking around a machine shop, and I'll give you an example from my perspective, right? I mean, I used to run 2 machine shops before, one electronics, one machining, right? And, you get the drawings from the engineering department, you bring it to the floor to build this or whatever, and you open up the toolbox of a machinist, and you look in there, and you'll see like a little red line here, which is because it was off 8th. Right. But so they put that in their toolbox. So when they build it, they know it's there, but they don't tell the engineer because it's job protection.
Right.
Right. It happens all the time. So if they were leaving, the tool would hit the wrong way and it would smash the tool and it cost you $100,000.
Oh yeah.
So what you're doing there is if for machine shop owners or any owner up there is getting that legacy knowledge base and creating a tool that you as a
it augments.
Bring onboarding new people.
It's as though the person who has retired is looking over his shoulder,
right,
or her shoulder, and so listen, I
need you to get a hologram going though.
Yeah. That's next. We built the robot and have it next to you. No, I had worked. This is years ago. Plastic injection molding machines. So talk about machine shop. And, the hot screw guns and the asbestos wrapping that you had to go around. You wear these giant gloves that go in there and service the screws and heating up the pellets and all that. It was crazy. But that now with AI would be okay. So this mold has been used 37 times. It now needs to be cleaned up, and you need to have this. And here's the CNC machine. You got to put it on here. Here's settings. Right. That's all it was held in the head of one person.
Right. Now
that's all been transferred to an AI process that actually says, okay, let me check for this. And then you talk about your red mark. That red mark should be incorporated into the AI so that it knows the 8th is already there.
Yeah.
It knows that, oh, by the way, when you go to Micron this is what's going to happen, right? When you get out when you measure it.
So, you've done that with this business. And so what has been the reaction to the people providing that information? Because they have a lot of pride, right? And things they've and maybe not recognize as much as they thought they should be of what they've been able to do, and they come to work. It's part of their family, and the next generation coming up. What kind of results or response or input you've gotten for your client based on this exercise you've done?
Yeah, that's a great question. We had a couple of different things happen as a result of this. The first was initially there was some resistance about, well, why do I have to teach anybody else? I'm not ready to retire. I'm not ready to retire yet.
Yeah, job security.
What we did there to counter that was we incentivized. So we gave them that if they completed the full courseware ingesting, meaning that they let us do all this for them, that they would get a financial stipend for completing it. Mm-hmm. That was part one. Part two was that we put in writing that, look, this is in no way, shape, or form leading to your job changing in any way, shape, or form right now. We are just bringing up the next generation. We were very open and pragmatic about it. Said, you're going to leave at some point. You don't want to work anymore. And when that happens, we want to be able to backfill you. We think the business is going to continue to need this role. So as a result, we want to be able to train the next person. We don't have the time to bring somebody in right now to do it. So we want to have this prepped in advance. And they're much more receptive to that because they said, I'm not bringing in somebody underneath me right now. I'm not training on the job training. We're doing it through the legacy tool. So as a result of that, they weren't feeling as threatened by it. The third thing, which really was the most important, is that when it led to a business liquidity event, which is what we did, right? We included that their participation got them monetary reward. And
stay bonuses, so to speak. So that's a wonderful way of doing it, because we've had a client that recently sold, and he had all 150 employees got something.
Yeah,
a closing, right? So it's a reward for thank you for getting where I am today.
Yeah, you got us to this point. Thank you, and now I'm done, and we're into the next chapter. If you want to stay, that's up to the new owner.
Right.
But clearly, from our standpoint, we wanted to make sure that we had a transition plan in effect, and that we made sure that everybody got compensated for it. Because if you respect them,
right,
and I you respect everybody, but clearly it's about understanding the value of what you're contributing. Just like I would with any business. If I want to buy a business, that business has to be of value to me, right? You as an employee still have to be of value. And so it's really recognizing that value and paying for it.
Yeah. Your ability to get them comfortable with this exercise is huge.
Yep.
Obviously, financial incentives is a big piece of it. But also, I think they took I would think at the end of that exercise, these employees felt a lot of pride in what they've been able to accomplish over 25, 30, 40 years, and be able to pass that knowledge base down.
Well, we gave them on a disc. We gave them everything when they left, right? Because we closed the company, and they started, the bigger company took it over, and they moved it over. But we gave everybody who contributed, and what we called the publishers, we gave everybody a thumb drive. They took it home. They're showing it to their families.
Right.
They say, "Oh, go through my training class. You want to know how Dad works? This is it. Go through it."
So
we put it. In fact, the best story I've got is this guy who is an analyst for a company, and we had basically built out a bunch of different tools for him. And he took it home and he gave it to his 7-year-old kid, who said, "I want to grow up and be like Dad," and went through his entire training class. And he said, "My son is training to take my job." I thought that was hysterical.
Yeah, there's a lot of family businesses out there, especially in machining arena, where it's multi-generational.
Absolutely.
At the floor level.
Yep.
Oh, my grandson, my grandfather worked here, I worked here, and everything is just, they kind of move into it. So we have a client that we're working with it. They brought in a machinist who was terrific, and they said, "Hey, we're looking to hire." And he raised his hand. "Look, I got a brother that can do the same thing I'm doing." I said, "Bring him in." Next thing you know, the cousin's in there,
right,
and then the son's in there, and the daughter's in there, the whole family.
Yeah.
I would think if I'm a buyer and I walk into that, and that question's answered by, "Hey, we implemented this AI tool to do the following. We have a whole training program that it's not, it's not 100%, but it's going to get you 95% of the way there." That's a huge value driver.
It contributed directly to the multiples of the EBITDA that we,
and that's what we're looking to do, right?
Yep.
So you look at all this stuff, and the dynamics. 22 AI, and here we are, 26, right? 4 years later, it's like a whole different ball game. If you're thinking about selling, in the next, say 12, 24 months, these dynamics are changing so quickly. What should I really think about, from my perspective? You give a lot of information here, but if, what are the, how do I stay on top of it? Because it changes literally every day. I subscribe to a half dozen newsletters.
Sure.
Right. And I'm on LinkedIn, and I follow 5 or 6 people. I get up in the morning at 5:30, and I have on my phone, if you want to implement Claude, here's the easy path. Using you want a Claude Code, Claude Work, Claude this, right? I haven't even got into Perplexity or Gemini or on Copilot's on my system. I use it, I use it because it's right there integrated with my Office. But I look at some of this stuff, and I'm dedicating a piece of my day every day to learning about AI and implementing it. And I tell my people, our team, spend 10% of your day, if not more, with AI, because it's going to make us better advisors to service our clients more effectively, or they can maximize their valuation on exit. If I'm thinking about it, because everything's changing so quickly, what should I be thinking about?
Well, I think you nailed it. The velocity of adoption is AI is like nothing we've ever seen before. If you think about adoption, right? And I use the analogy, okay, let's look at the wheel versus the car, right?
Yep.
Versus, toll collectors being eliminated with Easy Pass and all those different things that have been technology advances. The cell phone is the first one that, became ubiquitous, but over a 5-year period, right?
Yep.
AI was over a 1 year period. And that curve is up. So to your point, how do you stay on top of it? My job, I pivoted, and I'm like immersed in this now, right? Because I feel like I have to stay on top of it because my clients are asking me to give them that advice to say, where should I go? What should I do? But I also tell everybody, it's like, you need to be in it. You don't need to be as an expert, but you do need to understand, hey, when should I use Copilot? When should I use Claude? When should I use Perplexity? When should I use Gemini? And none of the answers are wrong. You can use them all. On the other hand, you're paying for all of those, right? Because there's a cost. So, okay, I tell companies, look, pick the tool that you think you have the most comfort with, and then let's just use that, right? You could focus on one. And that lets you learn the behavior, the anomaly. It'll learn your personality because it actually does interact with you. So it remembers everything. So if you go to Claude, for example, now, Claude will know, hey, Ken's here. And, I can respond with the tone that Ken types and give him the information that he wants in a better way than if I just went to ChatGPT where they don't know me at all, right? And so I would say you got to align with your friends. And
you're developing a relationship with your AI.
Right,
I mean, it's true, right?
But that's really what it boils down to. They joke around with these, there's AI boyfriend, girlfriend apps for these, Gen A kids. And I don't understand the purpose of it, but let it go. If you're because loneliness actually is a real fundamental social problem.
The whole article in today's, was a journal or Fast Company, one that I read this morning about, especially with, loneliness is becoming is huge.
It's a huge problem.
Huge problem, right?
It's a huge problem, and listen. It started with the pandemic, and now it's been exacerbated. And I think we lost some generations of kids who were in school at the time during the pandemic. And now that we've come out of it, I think that society, the fabric, our social structure is changing again. And I think we have to be ready to anticipate that. But I do think that the smart move is develop a relationship with one of those tools, right? And you can hear about people that have these dialogues and all that stuff. That's conversational AI. It's okay to have that, but I think it's better to use it as a business tool, and that way you can really get to it. The next wave that's going to start happening in I want to say 24 to 36 months is where the humanoid robots will now be empowered with some AI, and now you'll start to have not only a digital assistant, but a digital assistant with a physical presence. And that's going to be an interesting thing that comes.
What we're seeing in, I was it the other day, I think the Times, that a journal was talking about, China with the robots are everywhere.
Yeah. They just did a marathon in Beijing, a half marathon, and the robots won. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but
it's scary kind of.
I don't think it broke out into a sweat.
So you're right. It's again, you pick one.
Yeah.
Right. You got Claude, you got ChatGPT. You got Copilots. By the way, Copilot's a separate license from Microsoft, but it's worth the investment.
It is,
right? You got Gemini on the Google side, Perplexity, and some. Look again. Start with one, and then they say, maybe you should integrate. Perplexity may be better at this aspect of it. Claude's better at this aspect.
Yep.
So it's a lot, right? And then you get the subset of all those other AI things you don't hear in the public domain, because on Wall Street, but there's all these other little programs out there that you can build into it.
There's Replit, there's Lovable, there's Base 44. These are all the vibe coding tools,
and all those little stuff that you can put into it. So, but start small.
Yeah,
right.
You don't have to bite off more than you can chew. Right. And again, when you start thinking about small and mid-sized businesses, they're not going to spend that kind of money on these kind of things. Like I can spend thousands a month on it because that's what my business dictates. But at the same time, the average small business should be spending, $20 a month on one of the AI tools, maybe $40 a month if we wanted to be special and have more than one. But it goes back to what I said at the beginning. What's the AI policy and how is it being used? Like, AI is not a solution in search of a problem. I said that earlier, and I really mean that. It's like, it's not, I'm going to use AI to write all my emails. Well, okay, great, but that's not going to help you, right? But using AI to determine the value of these emails, using AI to actually make sure that I'm talking to the right person, that the email has the right follow through, that the email has whatever, I used to joke around and I'd say email, back in the old days, and I mean the really old days, we used to have manila envelopes called inner office mail. You'd have the mail person going around wheeling the cart and giving out the mail. And, if it fell into your inbox, great. If you got to it, great. If you didn't, you had to unwrap it. Then that quickly changed with email. where now it was instant gratification. So I would duck and cover. You type a message, duck, because I'm waiting for a response, right? Then we have instant messaging. And instant messaging means that, oh, if I'm waiting for your response, no, I need you to talk to me right now, right? AI solves some of that. So the reality is to start thinking about how we would then use that to improve our communications. And that is the secret sauce in AI. It's how it improves the communications, not does the communications, but it improves it for you.
Right. It's like the old adage when we first got computers, garbage in, garbage out,
Yeah.
right? It all comes down to. So as we wrap things up, I mean, we can probably talk for hours on
Yeah,
the subject,
absolutely.
but what would be one takeaway that you would like to provide to our audience about AI? I'm not even put you on the spot, but you know, you're an expert in this area, and I'd love just to.
I think my leave behind is that AI is going to continue to evolve. We're going to continue to see new models coming out. I mean, the Mythos model from Anthropic has everybody fearful because it can decrypt all the encryptions. So everybody's really worried about that.
I read that this morning. Right. So,
but and how that impacts. And I just saw this morning the Wall Street Journal reported that all the other AI companies now made a deal with the Pentagon, which means that autonomous, applications for military use is going to expand. And we saw, Ukraine has taught us that drone and warfare is changing, and to the same extent, AI is changing that as well. So I would say to your audience, first is it's going to continue to change, and you're going to have to try to stay on top of it. But there are people out here like myself who are experts in this, and that's what we're focusing on, is understanding and anticipating these changes and how to leverage them for your business. The second thing I would leave is what we said at the very beginning. What's your policy? If you don't have that policy, if you can't answer that succinctly, that's the first step you should take, because that's the most important thing to protect your business and add value to it.
Ken, this has been terrific, and I really appreciate you being on. To our audience, I mean, AI is here. It's evolving every day. It is going to come up in conversations when you're looking to sell your company, whether it's today, tomorrow, 12 months, 24 months, or future. As Ken said, you need to set a policy and then take it from there. Invest the time, energy that you need to be prepared when when buyers come in to talk to you, you can maximize the value. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today. Again, AI is everywhere. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you happen to miss part one of our conversation with Ken, just click the link below. Have a great day.